The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday night right here on Armed Radio. You are listening to Two Beards Talking. I am Daniel Sanders.
And I am DonnieJ.
And as we always do at the start of every show, we want to give a big shout out to the troops out there, men and women deployed overseas and serving on the home front. We appreciate everything you guys and gals are doing. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. Everybody here at home is rooting for you. We're going to roll right into it. College football.
Oh!
College football. Got to talk about it because why? There was a really big twist in the potential playoff rankings this weekend, and we are talking about the Oregon Ducks. Oregon.
Quack, quack. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yep.
Rolls over and gets screwed like a duck, it's probably a duck.
And they definitely rolled over and took one big time.
An unranked team.
Arizona State.
Oh, my Lord. The Sun Devils. Those little devils.
Yeah, those little devils.
I got to admit, I was cheering for Arizona State the whole time. I've spent some time out in Arizona. I've known a couple of co-eds from Arizona State, and so, nonplussed. It didn't matter the fact that it was Oregon. I was still pulling for the Sun Devils, but I didn't think that they could do it. Oh, my God. And aside from that, did you see the beginning of the LSU-Arkansas game?
I didn't, but I heard about it.
Whoa! They were holding their own. For a few minutes there, they looked like somebody other than Arkansas. And then after about 5 minutes into the game, they started looking like Arkansas again.
Wow.
But for a few moments, people were going, oh, my Lord. I think like the first quarter, they held them to within 7 points. At one point, within 4 points. And then, I don't know, then LSU just started being LSU, and now Arkansas started being Arkansas, and, we all took our places. And, yeah.
Good job, Razorbacks.
Yeah, you got the ass whooping you deserved. But not the one I wanted, so anyway.
But yeah, big shakeup in the playoff ranking potential.
So now, the rankings are like all, I think things are kind of staying the same, except there's a lot of talk. See, everything hinges now on the committee. It has nothing to do with the rankings now. Alabama's number 5. We're not, if we beat you, I'm saying you as in being Daniel's an Auburn fan. If
War
we beat,
Eagle.
Yeah, if we beat Auburn by 60 points, it's not going to matter. If we beat you by 6 points, it's not going to matter.
Well, here's the thing about
we're still going to be number 5.
I don't. Well, first and foremost, LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson are ranked 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Mm-hmm. Georgia's sitting at number 4 right now. Georgia had a pretty tough time with Texas A&M this weekend.
They did.
They did not win in convincing fashion like the number 4 team should have against an unranked Texas A&M.
Well, if you want to look at things for the first quarter, Arkansas pretty much handled LSU.
Yeah.
And then, of course, LSU did what they do. They ran away. But, if you're going to take everything into consideration, you got to take those things into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alabama's being penalized because of the loss of Tua Tagovailoa. And the loss to LSU. Okay, those are 2 things. Those are the 2 only major factors. You can say it was a cupcake schedule, and I'll give you that. It wasn't the toughest schedule in the world, but, we beat all of our opponents except for LSU. Mm. But for Tua, if it hadn't been for the loss of Tua Tagovailoa, we would have the score would have been like 86 to 3. In the game against Western Carolina University, the Catamounts, or whoever the hell they are,
the Catatonics.
Those. It would have been a mercy game. It would have been okay. We need to put the band in the fourth quarter, and we've got to put some mercy, give some mercy to these guys. Well, without Tua, we only scored 40, 51 points or something like that. It was. The game that's going to actually, and I don't think it's going to decide anything, that'll tell everything, is this coming weekend, the Iron Bowl.
Yes.
Everyone will be watching the Iron Bowl, but I really don't think, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think the outcome of the Iron Bowl is really going to make that much of a difference in the standings.
If Alabama wins in a convincing fashion, and what I mean by a convincing fashion
68-3.
Not quite that convincing, but
I would like that. But.
I'm sure every Alabama fan out there would like that.
Would.
But you know as well as I do, that's not going to happen.
No. Auburn's got a good team this year. They've
Auburn,
got a really great defense.
Yeah, they've got
their defense is phenomenal.
One of the top 3 defenses in the nation.
Absolutely, and we do not. I hate to say that, but I mean I'm being honest about my Tide. We don't have a great defense,
and I think
it's been off and on, hit and miss.
And I think special teams is all the way at the bottom of the list at Alabama.
Yeah, we won't talk about special teams. Let's not go there, okay?
We'll just kind of brush that under the rug a little bit. But no. So if Alabama wins in convincing fashion against Auburn, and I'm going to say they need to win by at least 21 points against Auburn.
Well, yeah,
and then we have to hope and pray, even if 1, 2, and 3, LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson, if they win out the rest of the season, then Georgia's only shot at staying in the playoffs is they have to win in convincing fashion against Georgia Tech. And by convincing fashion, I'm saying it needs to be like a 30-point game there.
Right. And then
they have to hold their own against LSU.
We'll see, and those are okay. Georgia Tech's not that much of a problem. LSU, that could be a problem.
Yes,
Kirby Smart's smart guy. Pardon the pun on words there. And I think that they could hold their own. But that said, here's what I think is the big thing, and you're going to disagree with me here, and that's fine. There's a lot of Bama haters out there. The committee, if they're going to go with, the talk is that they're going to go with those who have only won their conference. Well, if you're going to limit the people who are in the top 4 in the playoffs to those who win their conference, then there's no excitement about that. There's nothing great about that. There's no ifs and thens, and there's no. What I'm saying is it takes the mystique out of it. What could happen? Only thing that's going to matter is if you win your conference. If you win your conference, then you're in one of the top 4 spots. But there's more than 4 spots in the national picture.
Yeah.
So do we look at a Pac-12? Do we look at, the Patriot League? We were talking about that before the show, the Patriot League.
Yeah.
Now, that's a joke, actually. But
which, by the way, big shout-out to the Navy midshipmen for actually being in the top 25 of the AP poll.
I'm so proud of my midshipmen. Go Navy.
And you're better.
It's your Navy, too, by the way, Marine. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Men's department.
Okay, yeah, I'll bite my
ass. But no, and not only are they in the top 25,
right?
There is a school in the top 25 that the voters considered worse than the Navy,
and that would be
USC.
Ooh.
Yeah,
no.
Midshipmen are beating out the Trojans.
Yeah. I actually saw a Trojan game earlier this year, and I can understand why the midshipmen are beating out the Trojans. But anyway, I'm really proud of the midshipmen, as you should be too, because not many people know, but Marines that go. That's where the Marines go to become officers. The Naval Academy, because it's the Department of the Navy.
Yes.
Go ahead and say it.
The men's department.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, but we're both, Daniel and I, are both very proud of the midshipmen for cracking the top 25, and that means they're in the bowl playoff picture this year. They're going to go to a bowl, some bowl, a toilet bowl. I don't know.
Yeah. Dog bowl.
I don't know. Cat bowl, whatever. But they're going to a bowl game, and that's going to be really cool for the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
And a big shout out to one of my former DJ buddies. Newton Peters, if you're listening to this, he's probably not, but if you are, his son, Matthew Peters, has accepted a full ride scholarship to the United States Naval Academy as a quarterback. He's a phenomenal quarterback for the Cairo Syrup Makers down in Georgia, and he's a fine young lad, and he's got a really good future. And you're gonna be, mark my word, you're going to be hearing things about this lad when he gets to the Naval Academy. He's 6'5" with a cannon for an arm.
Hey,
yes,
maybe they'll break the top 20.
Hey, Hope springs eternal. Go Navy. Beat Army.
And I'm going to take the opportunity to give a big shout out to my alma mater, my high school, the Fife Red Devils of Fife, Alabama.
Going to the state tournament.
Not just yet. There's still one more week in the playoffs.
They're on their way.
They are on their way, absolutely. Yes. And this is the first time I have ever seen them play every single playoff round at home.
That's by virtue of the points you've scored throughout the season and how well you've done.
There's that, and then it's just how the bracket happens to fall, and then
Let's see how they do on the road because that's coming up. Yeah.
Well, no, there's one more game. There's the semifinals, and it is at home as well.
Oh, and then they're off.
And then they are off. They're playing at Jordan-Hare this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Bryant Denny is being remodeled. Otherwise, it would be held at Bryant Denny this year.
Okay, cool.
So
go Fife.
Yeah, and they are on 39-0 streak right now.
Wow,
39 games undefeated.
We're pulling for Fife.
Absolutely.
The radio station that I work for, WQSB 105.1 FM. You can stream at WQSB.com, by the way. Shameless plug there. Anyway, we do a thing called the Friday Night Scoreboard, and we've been following Fife all season long, actually. And,
have you been following their scores?
The team of the week. They've been the team of the week, and we've had some of their players as players of the week, actually.
Mm-hmm. Have you been following their scores, though?
Yeah, they look like basketball scores. Some of them do. I mean, I looked at one of them, and I'm like, wait, basketball season hasn't started yet. This is like 63-2 or 3 or something like. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah,
you guys are just running the table.
There have only
You're not winning. You're destroying.
They're through 13 weeks now. Mm-hmm. As of this past Friday, 13 weeks of football. They have only allowed 36 points scored against them.
I mean that speaks volumes. And
yes,
I think we're looking at the next state champion.
Oh, absolutely.
There are 5A, 6A,
2A.
I'm sorry, 2A.
Yeah,
2A.
They play like a 5A.
Yeah,
or a
that's
6A.
what while I was sitting the scores, I was like, oh my Lord,
Yeah,
that's the kind of scores that 5A and 6A teams put up. We're looking at Hoover. Those are Hoover scores.
Yeah,
those are
Yeah, and
for those of you who don't know, Hoover, MTV did a thing called Two-A-Days, a series several years ago, and it was based on the exploits of Hoover football.
Yes,
because Hoover produces more college football players from that high school than any other high school in the state.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been, but Hoover High School looks like a college campus.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's like it's where you go.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely pulling from our Red Devils next week against the Collinsville Panthers. And this is actually a rematch between the two of them. They met third week of the season, and we won 24-3. That's the only game Collinsville Panthers have lost is against my high school.
Now that gives me worry. I'm not trying to jinx you, but that gives me pause because usually when there's a rematch and you lost the first game,
you're coming for blood the second game.
Absolutely. They no holds barred.
But I just,
Which is why when people talk of going to college, when people talk of an Alabama-LSU rematch, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. We've seen that game. We've seen that play before.
Yeah.
We know how that turns out.
Yeah. And, and it's funny because I've had so many people ask me, well, what do they teach out there at Fife? Football.
Exactly. No, I mean, I grew up. I went to Guntersville High School, and we used to joke about it, but the reality was we had coaches that taught history. Every coach at Guntersville High School taught history. Okay, and the funny thing about that is they would come in and go, okay, read chapters 4 and 5. Going to be a test on Friday, and then they would leave and go to the field house and work on plays for Friday night's game, and you lived, eat, breathed, and slept football at Guntersville High School. This is, of course, back in the 80s, and they won the 2006 state championship, or 2005, 2006, one of those two. But the funny thing is that what do you teach? Yeah, you teach football. Not all these high schools are that way, but some of them, yes, they are. Hoover, Fife, Guntersville, and there's several other schools I could name that are that way. That's just That's just the way the South is.
Well, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So I'm sitting here looking at the head coach of Fife High School. I'm looking at his coaching record over the past 27 years, I think.
Yeah.
295 wins and 53 losses.
That's college caliber. That's that would do any. That's phenomenal.
Yes.
Someone's going to scoop him up. You realize that, don't you? He's going to the next level soon.
Rumor has it, which I'm sure he's had several opportunities to move up to the next level, but he loves where he's at right now.
Right.
And rumor has it, once his last child that is playing football right now graduates high school, he's retiring.
Oh.
I hate to see that happen.
That's terrible.
I would hate to see that happen, but at the same time, I understand, too. I mean, he's been at this almost 30 years.
Well, and you make a good living doing it, and you get to watch your kids go through school, and you get to watch your kids play, you get to coach your kids, and that's great. But, unless you're taking it to the next level, unless you're like a young, and I don't know how old he is, but unless you're like a young version of Nick Saban or something like that, then the impetus of going to the next level really isn't there. But the thing is this, what people don't realize is that coaching at high school level and college level and coaching at the pro level is so much different, because in high school and college, you can bench somebody. You can say, okay, I don't like your attitude. You broke a rule. You're on the bench this week.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they can do about it. And you have the backing of the entire athletic department of this whole school because you're the coach, and that's how that works. When you get the pros, then you bench somebody. No, you can't do that. It's in my contract. And they call their agent. Next thing you know, Drew Rosenhaus is on the phone. He's going, you're violating the contract, and we're going to sue, and blah, blah, blah. And you don't have any control.
Yep.
Which is why Nick Saban did, 1-2 years with the Dolphins and said, screw this, I'm going to call it back to college.
Yeah.
Because you've got total control. And a lot more money. Well, from Nick Saban's point of view, anyway.
Well, yeah.
So. He's making a salary that a lot of pros would be like, I'll take that. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing about Paul Benefield, the head coach at the high school I graduated from, is I've seen it firsthand. He will jerk a nut in your ass, and everybody in the stands can hear it.
And they don't say a thing about it. They're like, yeah, he's being a coach. He's coaching. Yep.
I saw a game. As a matter of fact, it was the very first home game of the season, and I was there. I went to it, and his quarterback ran a draw up the middle from like 10, 15 yards out, scored a touchdown, and he was showboating. Showing off to the sidelines, and he got back over on the sidelines, and Benefield crawled his ass.
Yeah, you got to keep that. You got to keep that down. You got to keep that ego. You got to keep that head from getting swole in high school, because you'll never make it to college. Yeah, you got to keep that. You got to, and that's why you've got, your better quarterbacks, your greater quarterbacks are the ones who are humble. Your Jalen Hurts, your Tua Tagovailoa. They don't get the big head, and they don't think, I'm God, I'm the greatest quarterback in the world. And that happened. Well, I remember back in the 80s, going to a practice at the University of Alabama, and there was a player named Lenny Patrick, who Coach Bryant was up in his coach. This is Bear Bryant was coaching. He was up in the tower. The practice tower that used to be famous for, and he would stand up in there with a megaphone, and he would shout out commands. And he shouted something out, and Lenny Patrick mumbled something under his breath, and a couple of players laughed. I have never seen an old man come down out of a tower as fast as Coach Paul Bear Bryant did. He came down out of that tower, went running out on the field. He grabbed Lenny Patrick by the face mask, twisted his head around, and you could hear him scream, "You play for me!" And let's just say after that, Mr. Patrick had a different attitude and played quite differently after that. Yeah, and a lot of that is lost today. I mean, we've got a lot of coaches who are afraid to do that kind of thing today, but you will see the ones who are successful, the teams that are most successful, are led by and coached by coaches who are not afraid to instill that level of discipline.
Yeah. And, it's funny you mentioned that about not getting a big head and all that other stuff. So I didn't watch the game against Western Carolina, but I heard Mac Jones had an exceptional game playing. My only thing is the media is hyping him up. about what a great game he had against Western Carolina.
Well, and that's the thing. See, Coach Saban he keeps his players pretty much grounded. There's a reason why freshman players, I think freshmen and maybe sophomore, I don't think you're allowed to talk to the media until you're a junior. Mm-hmm. You may be able to as a sophomore, but I'm not sure. But freshman players not allowed to talk to the media at all. You can't give an interview. You can't say anything to the media. You're not allowed to because you're a freshman. You're new, and you need to shut up and be coached. Okay. That said, he grounds his players. Mac Jones knows he's a second string. He's only playing because Tua's hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tua's little brother is right behind him.
Yeah.
So here's this. You're only playing because Tua's hurt, number one. Number two, if you screw up, his little brother's right behind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his little brother is no slouch in the quarterback department.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And what we're going to see is, I mean, he's well grounded, and the media. Well, he said it. Saban said it himself. Rat poison, I believe, is what the media destroys us. You write these things about how great we are and how great we did, and like you just said against Western Carolina, okay. It's rat poison. It's poison to the players. It makes their head get big. They read this stuff in the press, and they think too much of themselves, and they get complacent, and they go out on the field, and that causes problems. Unfortunately, he can't keep them from reading what's written about them in, at AL.com or Yellowhammer or ESPN or Sports Illustrated. He can't stop them from reading that stuff, but he does ground them and go, look, Mac, you did a great job against Western Carolina, the Catamounts, okay?
The Catatonics.
Yes, exactly. Next week, you're playing against Auburn, the biggest game of the year. Yeah. I can lose every game. I can imagine this conversation goes something like this. Mac, I can lose every game of the season and win against Auburn, and it's a winning season.
Yeah.
So this game is kind of important. It's kind of a big deal. The whole world is watching, and everybody in the state's watching. And if you screw up, you'll never take a snap again.
Yeah.
No pressure there, son, but just, let you know. Let's put things in perspective, Mac.
And, it's funny you mentioned that all around the world. So my first deployment in Iraq, we come in country, we land in Al-Asad, and Al-Asad is our staging point. Right. That's where we're getting all of our briefs and everything and getting acclimated to the environment itself before we go off to our actual area of operations.
It's also the last place where you get news from the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
And I was walking around one day. We had a little bit of liberty, and I'm walking around the base one day, and I come across this big-ass soccer field. And I took a picture of the sign, and if I can find the picture, I will post it on our Facebook page. Whoever it is that came in and saw this, when we took over Al-Asad, whoever came in and saw this stadium and did this had to be an Auburn fan because there is a big sign right outside of the stadium that says Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And like I said, I took a picture of it.
You think they're an Auburn fan? What was the first clue, Daniel?
If I can find the picture, I will post it on our Facebook page on Two Beards Talking so y'all can go check it out. But yes, oh my God, I was tickled to death when I said, yes, Jordan-Hare Stadium. Because I'd never been to Jordan-Hare Stadium before at this point. So I can finally say I went to Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah, in Iraq, but nonetheless, Jordan-Hare Stadium. So.
And, of all places in Iraq, I was glad I was in Iraq and I saw that.
Well, this weekend is the game. It's the biggest game of the year for the Crimson Tide. Actually, not the biggest game, but as far as playoff rankings, it does affect that. But
it really does, yes.
But as far as bragging rights, pride, and for 364 days, they get to say, we beat you. Yeah, it's the biggest game for Alabama or Auburn, either one. And any magical things happen at Jordan. People, the Bama fans on my page are going, yeah, roll Tide, and we're going to do this. And my thing is this, caution. Magical things happen at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Pick six.
Kick six.
Yeah, all kinds of things that just normally wouldn't happen go on there. It's like you can have a great season. You can have a perfect season. at Alabama, and everything goes to shit when you hit Jordan-Hare Stadium.
And it's not even just
Lee County, Alabama is upside down on that weekend.
It's not even just Alabama coming into it's any team. That same year of the Kick Six.
Yeah.
The Deep South's oldest rivalry, Auburn and Georgia. Mm-hmm. The prayer at Jordan-Hare.
Yep, I remember that. Yes.
That was the exact same year.
And, like I said, a lot of magical stuff happens down there. And it's kind of like, both stadiums, Jordan-Hare and Bryant-Denny, are, it's, the phrase home field advantage, you really don't understand what it means until you go to a game at either one of those stadiums.
Yes.
It is unreal. The chill that goes up your spine when they're playing, when they're, I'm thinking of Bryant-Denny, when they're at the beginning when the lights go down and they play Paul Bear Bryant saying, "All I've ever been is a winner." And then they go into Sweet Home Alabama, and then the lights go. It literally sends chills up your spine. And the same thing happens at Jordan-Hare.
As soon as they let that eagle fly,
it's unreal. That eagle circles the stadium, and pandemonium breaks loose. And anybody who's coming in there playing against them at Jordan-Hare, it's like they call the 12th. They call at Texas A&M. They call the crowd the 12th man, home of the 12th man, because they're so loud and so boisterous that the crowd is like the 12th man on the football team. That's the person that you can't tackle, that you can't defeat. There's no defense against the 12th man.
Yes.
Jordan-Hare and Bryant-Denny could both make arguments that the similar thing happens there.
Yes. And the thing I love about what they do with the Eagle at Jordan-Hare Stadium, it's not restricted to just Auburn games played there. When they play the state championships there, the high school state championships, all 7 games for every class, 1A to 7A, every time they play a game at Jordan-Hare Stadium, they fly the Eagle around the stadium for every single one of those games.
It's beautiful.
It is very beautiful.
Very patriotic. It'll, like I said, it'll make your heart swell. It'll make your hair stand on end. It's really a wonderful thing to witness.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this weekend is going to be a determining factor on many levels. I do not think it's going to affect the standings for Alabama as much as the Alabama faithful think it will. It'll have some effect, but as far as the overall standings, I think right now at this moment, Alabama is on the outside looking in, and I think we are definitely at the mercy of the committee. And I don't think we have any fans on the committee. I'm not certain about this. I haven't checked it, but I know in the past Condoleezza Rice was on the committee. I don't know if she still serves on it or not. From Birmingham, Alabama. On the committee. Not that would influence her decision one way or another, but a big college football fan, and I'm not sure who is on the committee, who makes up the committee this time, but I know there's a lot of Bama haters out there by virtue of the schedule that we had this year, by virtue of simply the fact that we become a dynasty and we win all the time. But we lose too. We've lost to Clemson. We've lost We've lost to LSU. We don't win every game. We just win most of our games, and that makes us hated.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see how everything plays out. So
Roll Tide.
War Eagle, Boomer Sooner, hook 'em horns, go Gators. And whoever you cheer for, go right ahead.
Exactly. Go Navy.
Midshipman.
Yes. Stop.
So, but we're going to roll out. So, this is a very, very interesting situation that happened this weekend. A man by the name of Alexander Booth from Putnam County, New York, was involved in a lengthy standoff with local law enforcement agencies up there.
Over nothing.
Yeah. Well, not really so much over nothing, and we'll get into that, but it's interesting how all of this came to be. So I'll preface this by saying I saw this Saturday night, and it was on social media. It was on Facebook where I saw this.
Where else? Everything's on social media.
And they were talking about this guy was in a standoff with police who were executing a red flag search and seizure because
sure it's a red flag. It was indeed a red flag.
Well, that was what the initial report was that I saw.
In New York, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So everything that I saw initially was that law enforcement was executing a red flag search and seizure because somebody reported that he had 30-round mags for his AR.
Which is illegal in the state of New York.
It is. But, I think restricting to an extent, I don't think everybody should be able to own an RPG, but, something like magazine capacity.
As the liberal in the room here, you know what? I agree with you completely. As I've said before, and I will say it again, and you know my stance on gun control. Gun control is being able to hit your target with your weapon while it's moving from 200 yards. That's my idea of gun control.
Yeah.
Simply having a weapon that has a 30-round capacity is not a crime.
Yeah.
Did he shoot anybody with it? No. Did he brandish it? No. Did he threaten anyone? No. But someone saw him with it, so they called the police.
Yeah.
That's utter bullshit.
So that was the initial. Everything that I saw was leaning towards he was in a standoff with law enforcement.
But then they checked his record.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
So
the lawyer in me is wanting it. Sorry.
So, all Facebook is just blowing up with all of this, and this happened. It was about 10 o'clock at night Central Time.
Right.
I'd seen like I said, he was updating live on Instagram while this standoff was happening.
Okay.
And
he asked for a peaceful resolution. Actually, as far as I understand.
Yes. He did share a photograph to Instagram, and I'm looking for it right here. Here it is. So it says, "Redcoats are threatening to turn off the internet and cell phone if I don't comply. Please help. I want a peaceful resolution."
Which diffused the redcoats right there.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden they're the aggressors.
Yeah. So
nice move.
In this day and age, the term redcoats has become synonymous with law enforcement executing a red flag search and seizure.
Which, by the way, I totally disagree with. I think the red flag law is utter bullshit. I think it's a violation of your constitutional rights, and I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah. And then later on, he posts another picture. This one kind of wasn't as peaceful sounding. It says, "Update, told the negotiator, get me something in writing that I won't do jail time or there will be blood." Now, from just looking at that...
So he was going to kill himself.
Yeah, just looking at that, the typical person would think, "Oh, that's a violent. He's threatening to kill somebody, kill law enforcement."
I would think he's threatening to kill himself.
Yeah,
because there's no one he can shoot. So what's he going to do? He's going to kill himself.
Yeah, and he could have very well meant that. He does have a knife strapped to his vest that he's wearing. So
right.
But yeah, it doesn't make any specific threat other than it says there will be blood.
But the police are going to interpret it in the context that is most favorable to them.
Yeah.
To help them execute what they want to do.
Right. But now, here's
I'm not going against law enforcement. I'm telling you the law enforcement mentality. That's how they look at things in the worst context possible, because they have to. Because they're looking at it that this guy could hurt somebody else. Though he well may be, meaning I'm going to kill myself. There's no way out of this.
Yeah. So after about 6 hours, the standoff ends. It's about 9 p.m., and like I said, it was about 10 p.m. Central Time when I heard about this. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 hours after everything has ended. And I'm checking Google. Whenever I hear something off the wall like this, one of the first things I do is I check Google to see if any other sources are reporting on this. Mm-hmm. I could not find anything on Google in the media, not even so much as a local newspaper or a local broadcast station saying law enforcement engaged in standoff with local man, will update as information becomes available. Nothing even to that effect. No media coverage whatsoever until Sunday. And then all of the media outlets are blowing up. And here's the thing. I'm going to get this. I got this statement on my phone. Let me get this pulled up here, and I'll read this to you. This is a statement from the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. Town of Carmel Police Department on 11/23/2019 at approximately 2:19 p.m., a member of the Town of Carmel Police Department was in the area of 50 Putnam Drive investigating a prior domestic incident involving the 28-year-old resident Alexander Booth, the gentleman in question.
Correct.
It does not say anything in here, and I forgot to mention Booth is a former Army veteran.
Right.
The officer, hearing what he believed to be a gunshot come from the residence, requested backup.
Okay, let me interject here. What he believed to be a gunshot.
Yes.
It might not have been a gunshot.
Correct.
It could have been simply something that the officer wanted to say, oh, I heard a gunshot.
Right.
I'm moving in. I'm not trying to say anything against police officers or any disparaging comments against them, but this is the fact. A police officer can say, I thought I heard a gunshot. I thought he made a threatening gesture. I thought I saw, I interpreted, blah, blah, blah. And then they move in and do what they want to do.
Yes.
Bottom line is a police officer can do whatever he wants to do.
Yes.
I'm not saying that this instance it wasn't warranted, but I thought I heard a gunshot. It could have been anything from something falling and hitting the pavement to a backfire of an automobile, and they use that as a reason to move in.
Yeah. Even worse than that, and this is our local law enforcement here.
Oh God, let's not go there.
In the city of Fort Payne, for example. If I'm walking down the street, doesn't matter what time of day it is, if I am walking down the street and I so much as trip over a crack in the sidewalk, and a police officer is driving by and sees me trip, that in and of itself right there is grounds for him to arrest me for public intoxication.
Absolutely.
He doesn't even have to give me a breathalyzer,
Nope.
a field sobriety test, nothing. He can automatically arrest me for a PI.
Cops can do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And the sad fact is, if you want to get out of the situation, you have to just put up with it, be arrested, and wait for your day in court. It's terrible, but that's how a lot of these local, these small town law enforcement agencies, that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. They make their money by arresting people, getting bail, which you don't get back. And then people go to court, and even if they're found not guilty, we got to pay court costs. A person found not guilty in a court of law usually has to pay anywhere from $100 to $300 court costs.
Yeah.
You're not guilty, but you're paying court costs,
Right.
which is ridiculous. But that's how it works. It's a money-making thing. And like you just said, cops can do what they want to do. And as a citizen, we're at this point in our society where you have to, if you want to be a statistic of someone that got shot because he resisted arrest or he said something wrong to a police officer, you go right ahead and do that. The best thing to do is just let them arrest you, go to jail, get out, have your day in court.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you're a statistic. You're somebody who got shot, and they will find a reason for why they shot you, and they will, more often than not, 98% of the time, a police officer shooting a civilian will not be found guilty of anything.
Yeah.
Will not be arrested or charged with anything. And that's just the sad truth. It's just the way things are.
Right. So it goes on to say, when additional officers arrived, Mr. Booth was observed in his doorway acting in an agitated state before returning inside his garage apartment and barricading himself. As a safety precaution, officers evacuated the neighboring houses and alerted the Putnam County Emergency Response Team and negotiation team. Negotiators made contact with Mr. Booth, and after 6 hours of discussion, they were successful in convincing him to surrender without incident. Thanks to their tireless efforts, no civilians or police were harmed. Alexander Booth was subsequently arrested on a felony warrant, and this is going to be lengthy, so just bear with me. Was subsequently arrested on a felony warrant issued by Town Justice Jacob Ellis, stemming from the previous domestic incident. Mr. Booth was charged with Penal Law 140.25, burglary second degree, a Class C felony, 140.15, criminal trespass, a Class A misdemeanor. I'm not even going to bother reading off all these penal codes and everything. Criminal trespass, criminal contempt, second degree, aggravated harassment, second degree, and petty larceny, Class A. He was arraigned in Carmel Town Justice Court.
So multiple felonies, multiple misdemeanors.
One felony.
One felony, multiple misdemeanors.
Yes.
Okay.
At the conclusion of this incident, and they emphasize no.
Here we go. This is good.
At the conclusion of this incident, no weapons or ammunition feeding devices were found or seized, despite numerous false social media posts to the contrary. The Town of Carmel Police Department was assisted by the Putnam County Sheriff's Office and the Westchester County Department of Public Safety Special Response and Negotiations teams.
But the whole thing began because supposedly someone said, I saw him with a 30-round mag.
Yes.
Totally bullshit.
He had initially posted that somebody reported him for having 30-round magazines, and law enforcement was coming to execute a red flag search and seizure.
And here's the thing. People are going to say, well, it's a good thing that happened because he had all these felonies and misdemeanors and blah, blah, blah. That's not the point. That's not the point of this whole thing. The point is the police didn't have the right to do any of that because he hadn't done anything wrong. Someone said, I saw. This red flag law is a bunch of crap. This red flag law is going to cause more problems than it has solutions.
Yeah.
Could it be a good thing in the right hands? Yes. Is it in the right hands? I don't think so. I think this gives law enforcement, not that they need it, but it gives them just one more reason to trample on someone's constitutional rights. This guy apparently did nothing wrong. Now, yeah, he had all these other warrants out for his arrest, whatever. So was he a bad actor? Maybe. I don't know. But did he deserve to be arrested for that? It's kind of like the guy who's committed a lot of crimes, and then he gets arrested for something he didn't do. Okay, he's in jail for something he didn't do. Now, he did a lot of things wrong, but that's not what he's in jail for. So did the system work? Yes and no. Did it fail? Yes and no. And here we've got a guy who had all these warrants out for his arrest. I don't know whether he did those crimes or not, but what brought him to the attention of the police was somebody saying he had a 30 mag round, and that 30 round mag rather,
and that's Mr. Booth's reported stance on everything. Of course, law enforcement is, no, we weren't executing any kind of red flag.
Well,
nobody contacted us about anything involving any weapons or anything. We were there because we were checking up on a prior domestic issue.
This reminds me of the scene from Walking Tall, where the guy goes where Buford Puster says, you got a tail light out. There's nothing wrong with my tail light. And he walks back there with a nightstick and busts the tail light out. Yeah, you got a busted tail light. Well, now I do. This reminds me of that. I mean, and the sad thing is and I've said it before, and there's no getting around it. You can deny it. You can say that you can call me whatever you want to, but a police officer can find a reason to arrest you. A police officer can find a reason to search your home. A police officer can find a reason to take your weapon from you. And there is nothing you can do about it.
Right. So, and this is Carmel Police Chief Michael Kazari. This is a statement he gave to NBC New York. The negotiators were very close many times to getting the individual to come out of the residence peacefully, and the posts that were on Instagram were just inviting him. This is a person in crisis, having mental illness and having issues, and he didn't need the people on social media telling him that his rights were being violated.
So they're blaming the people on social media for him not coming out sooner?
Basically, yes. They're saying that because of all the false reports on social media surrounding the red flag stuff and everything, and people telling him...
So they're saying it wasn't a red flag call?
That's what law enforcement is saying, that it wasn't red flag.
So they just miraculously came out to... did they execute a warrant? Here's my question. Did they execute a warrant upon the guy? Did they say, we have a warrant for your arrest for one of these felonies or one of these misdemeanors?
Well, like I said...
Because if they didn't, then the question to ask is, why are you there? Why are you here?
Right.
Who called you?
What
I said... What prompted you to show up?
Like I said... a member of, and this is from the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. This was a statement they released on Facebook, press release from the Town of Carmel Police Department. A member of the Town of Carmel Police Department was in the area of the 50 Putnam Drive investigating a prior domestic incident involving the 28-year-old resident Alexander Booth.
Okay.
The officer, hearing what he believed to be a gunshot come from the residence, requested backup. So at this point, we don't know really. All we have is law enforcement saying we were investigating a prior incident. It doesn't say anything about if he had a warrant for the individual. I mean, could have just very well been officer was there doing a wellness check. Who knows?
Or he could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Could have
been.
Or
the right place at the wrong time, or any number of scenarios.
And then the officer claims to have heard what he thought to be a gunshot come from inside the residence.
Wow, that was a gunshot,
Yeah. And, if you look back to... oh crap! I can't think of his name. He's the double amputee that was a sprinter in the Olympics.
Another one you're talking about, South African.
Yeah.
Yes.
The incident, the trouble he was involved in a couple of years back,
right.
And claiming
domestic argument. It was
and. I saw.
They called him the Blade Runner. Yes.
Yeah, the Blade Runner. Yeah, I saw a video surrounding that where neighbors from nearby claimed that they heard gunshots.
Right.
And the Blade Runner's argument was he was hitting a door with a baseball bat. Long story short. So a guy did a video to test. And what he does is he sets up a camera X amount of yards away to represent the closest home to the Blade Runner's house that reported hearing gunshots.
Right.
He fires rounds into a standard interior door that he has set up in his backyard. Then he takes a baseball bat and smacks the door from the same distance. And from the distance from the camera that he has set up, the sounds are similar.
Right.
So
the person you're thinking about is Oscar Pistorius.
Yes, thank you.
Right, and his girlfriend was Reva Steenkamp, and he was convicted, and he's serving time in prison.
Yes.
But the back to the whole thing about here, the sound. Police officers, they only have a few seconds to respond.
Right.
Now I'm gonna if I've been critical of police officers, now I'm gonna get on their side for a moment. I'm playing devil's advocate here. They only have a few moments to respond.
Right.
So when they hear what they think is a gunshot, it might be a car backfire. It might be somebody with a baseball bat hitting a wall, as the case may be.
Yeah.
But they have to respond to what they think, and they have a few seconds to do so.
Right.
So within that few seconds, they have to make a life-changing, life-altering, life-ending, possibly, decision. Do I shoot? Do I not shoot? Do I respond? Do I not? Do I move forward? Do I stand down? And unless you've been in that situation, unless you've been deployed as a soldier, unless you serve as a first responder, police officer, you really don't know how you're going to react until that moment happens. And they have very little to work on in that few seconds that they have to make that decision. That said, the bigger picture here is, and earlier when we were discussing this before the show, the red flag law.
Yeah.
Which I have, from a legal standpoint, I have a problem with. From a personal liberty standpoint, I have a problem with. I think that I may think something is wrong with you. I may think there's something that you've done wrong, but I don't have any proof. And therefore, what right do I have to call law enforcement and say, come get Daniel. He's got a 30-round mag. I think he's got this. I think he's got that. This is the kind of thing that leads to kids being shot because they got a play gun, they got a play weapon or whatever. This kid over here's got a MAC-10. No, he's got a toy.
Yeah.
And well-meaning citizens or busybody citizens or nosy-ass citizens can cause a lot of problems here with this law. My personal take on it.
Yeah, and I've said that I've been really critical of red flag laws ever since I first heard about them because it gives the average person too much judicial power.
Absolutely.
I mean, if just for argument's sake, I'm going to use you as my example here.
Oh, God.
Hey, Donnie, we've known each other for a really long time. And
I like where this is going.
I really don't agree with your take on this.
Okay.
And we get into a verbal
argument. You're a liberal snowflake, and I don't like this.
Yeah. You're go sit in your cry closet.
Right, exactly.
Well, you don't like that I said that. And me being a Marine, I have firearms. I have high-capacity magazines.
Right.
and you, as a means to get back at me,
want to call the police and say,
hey, this jarhead over here, this Marine,
got an AR-15.
He's got an AR-15, and he's got a PDW, and he's got these high-capacity magazines, and he's a really mentally unstable individual.
He's got a laser scope, and he's got a laser sight, and this thing, he's going to kill people.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what the potential abuses of the red flag law. That's what exists as a means of getting even with somebody. And with the case of the gentleman in New York, who knows who called? Who knows if anyone called? But if they did, who's the person that called? And what right do you have to call? What is your what is your vested interest in what your neighbor's doing? Now, I'm the liberal in the room here, okay? And I got a problem with this red flag law. I really do. I've got a problem with it. I've got a problem with anything that infringes upon a person's right to keep and bear arms. I think that, and this is bad. I know that in this day and age we have to be mindful of terrorists, and there are a lot of bad actors out there, and there are a lot of people with nefarious intents, and we need to be vigilant and we need to watch for them. But at the same time, we can't trample on each other's rights. Ben Franklin, I think it was Ben Franklin, or it may have been Thomas Jefferson, I forget here, who said that those who would sacrifice liberties for freedom are deserving of neither liberty nor freedom. Mm-hmm. If you're going to sacrifice your liberty, your constitutional right to keep and bear arms, if you're going to call law enforcement every time you see somebody with what you think to be a weapon that's got too many rounds, or a weapon that offends you, or a weapon period, you know what? You deserve exactly what you're going to get, which is a nation that has no weapons, that has no means of defending itself, and you're left at the mercy of whoever decides to take us over.
Yeah. So it was Benjamin Franklin, and just so we can get the proper context out there, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Thank you. I knew it was something along that context, but the point that's the point. And if you want to, it could very easily be that you're going to call the police against your neighbor who has an AR-15. All right? Well, there may come a day when you wish that neighbor had his AR-15, mm-hmm. because your freedom, your life, your liberty is being threatened, and he's the only one coming to your defense.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword. And the framers of the Constitution... Framers of the Constitution made the Second Amendment for a reason. The first was freedom of speech. We want to be able to say what we want to say. And the Second Amendment was there so if somebody has a problem with our First Amendment right.
Yeah. The Second Amendment was put there in case the First Amendment doesn't work out.
Absolutely. And this red flag law, I think even law enforcement are divided over it.
Oh, now, absolutely.
Law enforcement doesn't want anyone armed except law enforcement.
Yeah.
But the problem is sometimes, at some point, we're going to, the Second Amendment was there for citizen soldiers.
Yeah. Well.
Militia. And, we can't envision it right now, but there could come a time when we're going to want as many people as possible to be armed.
Absolutely. I won't go so far as to say as law enforcement doesn't want people to be armed.
Well, they want the right people to be armed. They don't want mentally unhinged people. They don't want criminals to be armed.
Right.
Obviously.
And, I'll even say this. If it comes down to the day that, North Korea gets the balls to invade us and we have a Red Dawn scenario.
Hey.
Give Jeffrey Dahmer a gun.
I have no problem with it, absolutely, and I'm amazed that you said that you mentioned Red Dawn, because I was reminded of the scene where the Cuban colonel says, "Go look for form whatever it is, SR 9213," and his adjutant says, "What is that?" He goes, "It is a form which lists it registers every person who is registered to have a firearm."
Yeah.
In other words, he wanted to take the firearms away from everybody, which is just about everybody in Colorado, who had a firearm. And If you want to take over a country, the first thing you got to do is disarm the populace.
Yeah.
You know, second thing is kill all the lawyers, according to Aristotle, or it might have been Plato, maybe it's Shakespeare, but that's a famous line. What first thing kill all, people like to quote, first thing kill all the lawyers. What they were talking about was if you want to really destroy the country, you really want to undermine the republic. First thing you got to do is kill all the lawyers, because the lawyers are the ones that are going to stand up for the essential freedoms, that are going to stand up and say this is illegal, that are going to stand up and say you can't do this. So if you want to get around that, those pesky laws, you got to kill the lawyers. Then you got to take the weapons away.
I think it was just because everybody hates lawyers.
Well, there's that. Thanks, Daniel.
So, but yeah, I am a big opponent of red flag laws. I think they are highly unconstitutional. And
like it says, the liberal in the room, I'm strangely in agreement with you on that. I think there's a lot of problems. I think it has not been thought through, and there are a lot of laws that are enacted simply. There's no way. I'm just going to say this. A lot of laws are put in place simply so some politician can get reelected.
Yeah.
They're not thought through. They're not well hashed out, and they're enacted because someone wants to say, "Look, I did a law. I did a red flag law. I'm, blah blah blah, or I did this law for this reason, this law for this reason." And it sounds good on a 10-second soundbite, and it gets them more exposure in the news media, and they get reelected.
Yeah.
But then we have to live under this bullshit law that someone created that they didn't think a whole lot about. They didn't put a whole lot of thought into.
Yep.
And it winds up having to be struck down on the appellate court level and then go to the Supreme Court, because that's the only way. Once a law is enacted, the only way you can strike it down is challenging it in the Supreme Court. And they say, this is unconstitutional. This is bullshit. We're striking it down. And that's where a red flag is headed.
Yeah.
It'll take a while, but it's eventually headed there.
Yep. So we're going to leave it there. We're running short on time. Going to take the opportunity to real quick to plug our Facebook page, Two Beards Talking. Go on there, like us, follow us, interact with us, hate us. If you don't like us, tell us. I don't care.
And many do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care what you think about us, but let us know either way. It's not going to hurt my feelings one bit if you come on and say, fuck y'all are idiots.
Really? That's fine. I've been called an idiot before by people who are less intelligent than you.
Yeah, because, hey, at least I know you're listening. We appreciate it.
Well, the opinions expressed on here are our opinions, and the facts that we have are loosely gathered and sometimes erroneous. But that means our opinion is erroneous as well. So.
Yeah. And, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one and nobody wants to hear one.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, Facebook page, Two Beards Talking. Like us, follow us, interact with us. Tuesday nights, listen to my show at 8 o'clock right here on Armed Radio with me and Rod Burks. That is 2AT, Second Amendment Talk, where we're probably going to continue on further about this incident that happened this weekend. So, yeah, be sure to tune in.
Then, again, this week, we did not get into politics as I would like to have.
So well, a little bit more politics.
Yeah, we got a lot more next week. Next week is going to be lots of fun because we're about to see I'll get into it next week.
I know exactly what you're doing, and I'm waiting for all of the impeachment bullshit to be done so we can talk about it all at once.
The funniest thing I saw was on social media this week. It said after 5 episodes, the impeachment hearings have been canceled. The series has been canceled. I love it. Loved it. That's the most beautiful thing in the world. That was it.
But, yeah, be sure to tune in and listen to us there on 2AT, Second Amendment Talk. This has been Two Beards Talking right here on Armed Radio. I am Daniel Sanders.
And I'm DonnieJ.
We, again, big shout-out to all the troops overseas and serving on the home front. We appreciate everything you guys and gals are doing. Come home safe. We all appreciate it. Everybody here at home is rooting for you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it. Have a great night.
See ya.